Even the Shah can't negotiate with a revolver.
Privyet, my tovaryshi. Welcome back to Ranking Every Assassin's Marksmanship. I'm Comrade Vadim, and today we'll be traveling back in time to late 19th century Persia to look at the assassination of Naser al-Din Shah Qajar by Mirza Reza Kermani. We'll look into the political unrest that set the stage, break down the dramatic moment of the Shah's death, analyze Kermani's weapon of choice, and then we'll head out to the range to recreate this shot and see just how good of a marksman Kermani really was. By the spring of 1896, the guarded domains of Iran, or more commonly known as Qajar Iran, was a nation at odds with itself. The nation had been established in 1789 and had been ruled by the Qajar family ever since. And before we get too far into this video, I just want to apologize beforehand for all my pronunciations throughout this video. I did do my research and I'm trying to pronounce them as well as I can, but I'm just not made to say some of these words, so my apologies. Naser al-Din Shah Qajar, who had ruled for almost half a century at this point, was once seen as a reformer. But years of political stagnation, widespread corruption, and a growing dependence on foreign superpowers such as Britain and Russia chipped away at his credibility. The Shah had granted sweeping economic concessions to foreign interests, a decision that sparked protests and emboldened a growing wave of intellectuals and pan-Islamists demanding national sovereignty. Among the most vocal of these pan-Islamists was a man named Jamal al-Din al-Afghani, an Islamic ideologue who had been exiled by the Shah for his criticism. One of al-Afghani's most devoted followers was a man by the name of Mirza Reza Kermani, a teacher and a journalist whose own imprisonment by the regime had hardened his beliefs. To Kermani, the Shah had betrayed Islam and sold out Iran. And with the Shah preparing a year-long celebration to celebrate 50 years on the throne, Kermani decided it was time to act. It's May 1st, 1896, in Tehran, Iran. At the Shah Abdul-Azim shrine, Naser al-Din Shah Qajar had arrived at the revered mosque to offer prayer. It's meant to be a public and symbolic appearance, one that reaffirms his role as both king and protector of the faith. But in the crowd that day is Mirza Reza Kermani. He's disguised as just another worshiper in the mosque, but quietly, he's closing the distance to the Shah. As the Shah kneels to pray, Kermani steps out from the crowd and draws a concealed revolver, possibly a British Webley, and fires a single round directly into the Shah's back. The Shah collapses, mortally wounded. Panic erupts in the shrine. Guards and bystanders rush to restrain the assassin, who doesn't attempt to flee or resist. Instead, he stands silently as he's arrested, his message delivered, and his job done. The Shah was carried out of the shrine and back to his palace. He was only struck once, but it did turn out to be fatal, but just barely. Some say Kermani's revolver, or maybe the ammo he was using, was old, rusty, or had water damage, which resulted in it being much weaker than expected. Some witnesses to the Shah's injuries even suggested that if Kermani had just been a little bit farther away, or if the Shah had another layer of clothing, maybe the bullet would have missed those vital organs as it didn't dig in as deep, and the Shah could have survived. His final words reportedly included a vow that if he survived, he would change the way he ruled, possibly for the worse. But he didn't, and the Shah died later that evening, bringing an end to one of the longest reigns in Iranian history. Kermani was imprisoned, interrogated, and ultimately hanged for his crimes a few weeks later. He never expressed remorse, which is a common theme we see in these videos for political assassins. So did Kermani win? Did he change the course of Iranian history forever? Well, some would say yes. The assassination intensified existing calls for reform and became a rallying point for Iranian constitutionalists who saw what Kermani did not as murder, but as justice. Within the decade, Iran would undergo the constitutional revolution of 1906, ending absolute monarchy and ushering in parliamentary government. I'm sure that will go perfectly fine, and the Iranian people will live in freedom and peace forever. In death, the Shah became the symbol of a failed era, and Kermani the unlikely harbinger of change. Alright, now let's talk about the weapon and the shot itself. While the exact details are scarce, after all this is the late 19th century, it's widely believed that Kermani used a Webley revolver. Now given the time period and the location, it's likely that this was a black powder .455 caliber variant, which was pretty common. Now if you've ever seen a video on the Webley, you'll know that these things are bulky, slow to reload, and anything from a modern sidearm or even a modern revolver. But at medium to close ranges, these are absolutely lethal. Well, they're supposed to be. But here's where it gets interesting. Kermani fired a single round into the Shah's back, but the exact range of that shot, we don't know. It could be 5 feet or it could be 40 feet, we just don't know. But what some historical accounts suggest is that Kermani's revolver was either old, rusty, or damaged, or possibly loaded with bad ammo that was either water damaged or had something else wrong with it, which could all be very common with black powder. So combine the degraded weapon performance with the multiple thick layers of ceremonial garbs that the Shah would have been wearing, the shot just barely made it into him and just barely killed him. It suggested that if Kermani was just another 5 feet back, or maybe shot at a slightly different angle, or maybe hit just slightly off to where there was another layer of clothing, the Shah may have survived. But what we do know is that it was a single shot from a short but unknown range on a kneeling target facing away from the assassin. So with that information, let's head out to the range to recreate this shot to see just how good of a marksman Kermani really was. To Vadim.
Okay, we are out at the range to recreate the shot that Kermani did on Naser al-Din Shah Qajar, if I'm saying that anywhere near correct, but we're in the correct apparel for today. Let's recreate the shot on this Iranian leader. So as we just heard, as the Shah was kneeling down to pray, Kermani walked up behind him and shot him a single time in his chest. And it's said that his clothing was so thick that he could have survived it. So, you know, he was using an old Webley revolver. I don't have a Webley revolver or a sponsor for that matter, but we do have the Nagant revolver that will be a pretty good representation of the Webley for this recreation. So let's go warm up with a few shots and then do this recreation on the Shah. All right, let's take a few shots to warm up. Feeling good? All right, I need you all to use some imagination. We're no longer in the forest. We're in a beautiful temple, and this is not a cardboard cutout. It's the Shah. And we are Kermani, and we're going to assassinate the Shah. So what we're going to do is we're going to walk up behind him. We're going to try and put one shot right in the chest region right here from a few feet behind him and see how good of a marksman Kermani really was. Let's do it. All right, so this is attempt 1. Let's see how difficult of a shot this is. Okay, so this shot really center is from before, the short, you should go check it out. This is our new shot right there. You can see that that one was right center mass, so I think that's a pretty good shot. We're gonna give it 2 more attempts and see if we have any variation there, and then we'll judge how good of a marksman Kermani really was. All right, attempt number 2, let's give it a try. Oh. We're getting a pretty good group there. There's our new shot for attempt number 2. Nice, close proximity to attempt number 1. But of course, we're gonna give it one more try. All right, this is our last attempt, and we're quickly finding out. Even a Shah can't negotiate with a revolver. And that proves it. Our newest one is right there. So our 3 from this video are 1, 2, and 3. All very close proximity, all very deadly shots if you were the Shah right here. So based on everything we've seen today, along with some mystery on exactly how far away Kermani was from the Shah, we're going to give Kermani a very decent rank in the C category.
Thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Ranking Every Assassin's Marksmanship. Be sure to check out the rest of the series from the playlist on my channel, both the shorts and the long form breakdowns. Be sure to check out my Instagram and my X account, where I'll be posting some more, including some behind the scenes content. Be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Tell me, do you think that Kermani changed the course of history with a single shot? Well, anyway, until next time, do svidaniya.